What's going on, guys? This is Saturday Afternoon Wrestling, and it is a great day to talk about wrestling because this weekend is WrestleMania 41. It's finally here. It feels like we have been building towards this for longer than normal because we have. It has been, I think, an additional 3-week build on top of what a normal WrestleMania build would be from Rumble to Mania. But before I get into the shows, both nights, predictions, everything like that, I want to talk a little bit about wrestling PR because this week has been an insane week in wrestling company PR. And what I mean by that is the comparison of how this week has gone for AEW versus WWE heading into their biggest show of the year is kind of astonishing to me. So I'm going to start with AEW really quick because obviously this is going to be a WWE heavy episode, discussion, whatever you want to call it. But AEW had their 289th episode of Dynamite this week. And that's significant because they passed WCW for being the longest running wrestling show on a Turner network. And they said it all night long on the broadcast. And they stacked that broadcast with matches. We had 4 really top tier matches if you count the tag match with the Hurt Syndicate and the Gates of Agony. And all night it was a celebration of all things AEW. The night ended with the Ops, Samoa Joe, Shibata, and a substituting Will Hobbs coming in for Hook, who could not perform. They won the trios titles off of the Death Riders. It was a huge pop from the crowd. Then literally all of the baby faces came out and popped champagne. And that's a big deal. It's a double meaning, really. Like, yes, obviously people were happy for Samoa Joe. People were really happy to see the Death Riders lose and get knocked down a peg. But it was really a celebration of AEW and their tenure because the other show, WCW, which had been on Turner for the longest up until that point, was run by Eric Bischoff. And Eric Bischoff has for years been a top detractor of AEW. So this whole thing felt like a victory lap spite session for AEW to take on Eric Bischoff and WCW, and the fact that AEW has now outlived WCW. And it's not like, yeah, it's super petty, but follow that up, they doubled down on the petty because in Las Vegas this weekend, where WrestleMania is being held, I saw pictures online of the airport, and like every digital billboard in the Vegas airport had AEW advertisements on it for Dynamite every week on HBO Max, on TBS, or for the pay-per-view that's coming up, or the show that's coming up in Vegas in a few months. I don't remember which one it was, but they have taken the time to really put themselves out there more and more, and they've been taking this victory lap. And it's, I know people that just don't like AEW aren't going to like to see it, but compared to what the PR has been for WWE for this week, I think they have earned it. I think outlasting a lot of the criticism and finding ways to continue to stay afloat and get their TV deal with HBO and Turner and Warner Brothers. I have nothing but positive things to say about that. The product is not always great, but the product isn't always great in WWE either. I appreciate having a second company, a second major company that I can watch weekly and see a different type of wrestling and different performers. That's kind of just always been my approach on it, is I'm going to watch both. I'm going to like some of it. I'm going to not like some of it, but I'm going to appreciate having the options and the choices there. So I said WWE's PR has had a rough week, and it feels like every single day something has happened to just add on to this pile. WrestleMania is Saturday. The Hall of Fame was tonight, Friday night, and this whole weekend is supposed to be nothing but a big celebration of wrestling. And instead, on Monday, we had Nick Khan go on the Bill Simmons podcast, where he criticized AEW a bunch and talked about basically how like him and Triple H are thinking about the people that are just sitting around in AEW and how they can't wait to sign them and get them over to WWE because WWE doesn't bench anyone. They don't pay anyone to just be there. Obviously, that is not true. That is just a straight lie uh to Bill Simmons' face from Nick Khan, and they go way back too, so it's not like he's going to press him on it and ask him with specific examples. But a lot of the wrestling reporters and journalists did bring up different examples. So you have someone like Natalia, who has been sitting basically since she re-signed last year, where the speculation is WWE made her a huge offer just so she didn't sign with AEW in time to run the Owen Hart Cup tournament. So she has been basically around in the back, aside from a few sporadic appearances here and there. The tag team gauntlet with Maxine Dupree last week, and that's been about it. But it's not like she's on the WrestleMania card. She just did an appearance in Bloodsport, where she had, by all accounts, a very good showing. But it's been stuff like that, like indie appearances and one-offs that she's been doing. Then you have the entire Wyatt Six, who have not been seen on TV since I think they got drafted to SmackDown because of an injury to Bo Dallas. But because of that, they're keeping the whole team off of the show, or off of the road. And so they have not been seen since. There have been like little hints here and there, but those hints have been tied to Alexa Bliss, who returned at the Royal Rumble to a huge ovation. She is incredibly over every time they show her in a match or on TV. But that, I think it's been 4 appearances, maybe 1 or 2 matches since the Royal Rumble now. And obviously they did the long European tour, and she did not go on that. She opted to stay home with her newborn baby. And that's totally understandable. I think that's a reasonable thing, a reasonable decision. But she's not on the WrestleMania card, and they're apparently tying what she's going to be doing into the Wyatt Six. But it's not like we have any idea what's going to be happening with that. There's Chelsea Green, who is the Women's United States champion right now. She's probably one of the most over acts on the roster now at this point, over this last year that she has had, and how good she has been. But she's not defending that title on WrestleMania. The Street Profits just had their tag match delayed again a week. They're holding the SmackDown tag team titles. Those won't be defended at WrestleMania. And there's plenty of other examples of people that are just kind of not being used. You think about all this recent batch of releases that WWE had a few months ago, where it was, Tegan Knox and Bea Priestley and some of those other guys who were just literally just sitting around doing exactly what Nick Khan said. So I don't understand that. I'll never understand trying to take shots when you're opening yourself up for the same criticisms. It feels like this is a problem that is just always going to happen in wrestling. It's not like there's an unlimited amount of shows, and sometimes it just happens. So for Nick Khan to act like AEW is doing that nonstop all day, every day, and WWE is completely clean of that is, it's just not true. Then we get to Triple H, who did an interview where he took some shots at AEW as well, which is pretty normal Triple H stuff. Then he randomly just decided to talk about how he liked Trump and really liked the entertainer and showman that Trump is, and how he gets it with the WWE stuff. Really weird. I don't know why they decided to do this. They have been pretty obviously Triple H is someone, and his whole family, you don't have to look hard to see their ties to Trump and the current presidential administration. You just really have to look, at maybe one headline, maybe two. His mother-in-law is, I think, the Secretary of Education right now, Linda McMahon. And there's plenty of pictures of the whole happy family at the White House. So you don't have to look far for that. So it's not surprising that that would be his belief, but it's surprising he would say that the week before WrestleMania after not saying anything for so long. So I don't understand that. Like, when you're in the position to talk about the show and to build hype for the show, maybe don't bring up like the most toxic, divisive thing going on in the country right now. And that goes double for Roman Reigns, who did this big Vanity Fair article, and part of it mentions that he is a registered Democrat that is a centrist and voted for Trump because he liked that he was this loud, entertaining guy who had been experienced in politics and business and entertainment. I wish I had written down the actual quote, but it was something about like positive leadership. And then in the next breath, it was like, but he also doesn't like that Trump always needs an adversary to really be at his best. Like, it's a little too wrestling. I don't understand. I don't understand why a minority man with a history of leukemia, with young children and a African American wife would look at everything that's going on right now and think, yeah, here we go. And I'll never know. And I probably shouldn't have known that this was going to be like why in the world would this come up? Why would you bring this up 2 days before WrestleMania? Why would this be the Thursday story? Like, all anyone wants is to talk wrestling and to build up the hype for the show and your big triple threat match with CM Punk and Seth Rollins and the rest of this card that has come together nicely. But, even if the hype hasn't really matched a normal WrestleMania build, like, I don't understand. I don't understand this at all. And I don't want to get derailed into talking about people's political preferences, but for someone to look at the landscape of things right now and be like, this is what I should say. It just, to me, it just registers as either you have no idea what's going on, or you're so secure in where your status is, where your position is, that you don't have to worry about any of those things. So I don't know. I can't speak for Roman Reigns or for Triple H or for any of those guys. And I'm sure there's tons that agree, because I think Donald Trump is in the WWE Hall of Fame still. I don't remember if they took him out at any point, but I think he's still there. So it's not like this is a surprising thing. I saw a video after that I was like, ooh. It was Trump being given an Ulafala, which feels insane to even say. Like, I thought it was an AI video, but there were tons of people under it that were like, nope, this really happened. Here's the real footage. Here's the uncut footage. And that seems crazy to me too, because I've talked to a few creators in wrestling and in just like art and throughout like the comics world. I talked to a few Samoan creators that spoke actually about how they felt seeing the Ulafala on TV so much and being so prominent. And one thing that every single person I've talked to 3 separate creatives, one thing they all said was they appreciated the respect that WWE was showing. The fact that they were keeping it to Samoan culture, Samoan heritage. They weren't selling tons of replicas because of what it means, what the process of creating it means, and how it is made. And they appreciated that it hadn't been cheapened at all in years of WWE storytelling, when there is a certainly a precedent for WWE maybe mishandling certain things, or not showing the same care. So I can't imagine what that thought is, seeing something like that happen in the White House with Inula Fala being given to the president. I don't know. At this point, you could tell me he's going to walk Roman Reigns out, or Roman Reigns is going to acknowledge him at WrestleMania, and that to me feels like a side effect of the TKO of it all, of TKO owning UFC and WWE, because it's not like Trump is not always at UFC events. He's always there. He's always shaking hands with Dana White and walking out and all that's the photo op stuff. And so I really hope WWE is not going this route. It's hard enough to compartmentalize and be like, okay, like I can forget about this, and this, but I like this, so I'll watch and I'll keep doing this. It's hard enough to do that. Like, I don't want more baggage like this brought in. I just want my graps. I don't know. So anyways, that wasn't even the end of it, because Friday we got a John Cena New York Times piece where he said, I love Vince McMahon, and people are going to come at me for it, and what he did is not excusable, but I love Vince. That I could never not love Vince. Like, what are we doing? What is this? Does WWE not have a PR department? Is it because John Cena is part-time? They don't have to, like, no one has to run anything by PR or media. All of the training and classes they do for promos and moves and storytelling and there's no like media literacy PR course at the Performance Center. Like, if there's not, should think about adding one in, because I can't fathom the head of the company, the person in charge of creative and two of the main event stars of the weekend all saying things that like there's no reason to say them in the biggest week of the year for your company, back to back to back to back like that. It's unreal. I every morning I woke up and saw the new headline and was like, what is happening? Like, what timeline are we in? And I don't know if all of this is to normalize it and get people ready or a little prepared for the idea that, these types of figures are just going to start showing up at shows. But I don't understand it. WWE has made a clear point to cut out mentions of Vince. They don't even mention Brock Lesnar anymore because of his association with it. And I don't understand. I obviously John Cena worked with this man for a long time, and he's gonna feel some type of way. You have to say it. Like, do you really have to put it out there? Like, I would think people would know, but I'm fascinated to see what the reactions are going to be at the shows moving forward, online, anything. Like, I'm very interested to see, because you have stars like CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn, Liv Morgan, Becky Lynch, who have all been outwardly vocal about things like Palestine and Gaza. And the way they have had to do it has been through social media, or sharing a vague Instagram post, or donating to a GoFundMe. And like everything's been like more low key. There's no getting in an interview and being like, hey, free Palestine, hey, Gaza needs that. Like, there's none of that. There has been none of that, and there will be none of that going forward. I can almost guarantee that. So to see the double standard at play too is disheartening, at best. Really, it's a bummer to see so many people feel like they can't full-throated support the things that they want to, while others can just like megaphone it out there everywhere and not worry at all about repercussions. So I don't know. I don't know what the point of all of this is. It's more just like I couldn't just hop into like, oh, it's WrestleMania weekend, let's predict some matches, without bringing all of this up, because it's too crazy to have all of this happen this week and overshadow what has been, in my opinion, a lackluster build to a lot of these matches. And who knows? I really hope the show both nights goes great, but there are so many weird things about this WrestleMania that just don't feel like WrestleMania. There's this whole week of bad PR. There's reports that there's tons of hotels, tons of tickets and seats available still. They had the broadcasters on SmackDown talking about like, seats still available, get your tickets if you want to come. Now's the time to come. Hall of Fame tonight's at 10. Plenty of tickets if you want to come get your tickets. It's 2 hours later. Starts at 10. We want people to have time, after SmackDown, get your tickets, come to look. Like, there's so much more of that this year than I can remember in past years, where it felt like everything was like booked and completely full, like within a month of the event happening. So I just don't know. Like, it feels like such a weird thing, and I'm sure this whole weekend is going to go off without a hitch, and it's going to be like a why did we ever think that type of moment. But I just can't help but see all of these weird things and think like, this just doesn't feel right. Like, this just doesn't have the feeling yet. And maybe it'll come. Maybe this is just an off year. But with how hot WWE has been, it doesn't feel like they have off years. I don't know. That's something I will be paying attention to. But now that I've gotten all that out of the way, I will get off my soapbox here, and we will break down some cards. Before we get to WrestleMania, we have NXT Stand and Deliver. Now, I'm recording this a little late Friday, later than I had wanted, but I wanted to touch on this because I think there's going to be a lot of great matches. I'm going to go a little quick, though. Like I said, it starts in like less than 12 hours. It's at 10 a.m. So if there's anyone that's listening to this before that, thank you so much. If not, I think this is a card that's going to be worth going back and checking out. So if you missed it first thing in the morning, I think it's worth going back and watching, because I really do think that the NXT stars tend to shine the most on these types of weekends where there's a main roster show at the same time, or right after, that they can compete with and try to prove a point on, and that competitive fire that comes out. So we have got 7 matches on the card for Stand and Deliver. First, we have a pre-show match It is a fatal four-way tag team elimination match with the chance to determine the number one contenders for the NXT or for the WWE Women's Tag Team titles. We've got Metaphor, which is Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson, taking on Fatal Influence, which will be Fallon Henley and JC Jane, Tatum Paxley and Gigi Dolan, and Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade. I can't believe after the few years Roxanne Perez has had that she's on a tag match on the pre-show, which, like, it feels like she's remain roster bound after this weekend. And for her send-off to be this, it feels a little weird. So I'm almost tempted to pick Roxanne and Cora, but I think the move here, I think I'm going to go with Metaphor. I think I'm going to go with Jakara and Lash Legend because I feel like they could be called up at any time, and calling them up to the main roster and having the number one contender for the tag titles, establishing them right away on top of what they've already done against back when Bianca and Naomi were tag champions. I really think that there's an opportunity there to build them a lot stronger out of nowhere. So I'm going to say Metaphor gets the win here to kick off the pre-show, to end the pre-show into the main show. I don't know what the placement's going to be like, but I'm going to give it to them. And then second listed here, we have the ladder match for the vacant NXT Women's North American title. It is Zarya versus Kalani Jordan versus Sol Ruka versus Izzy Dame versus Lola Vice versus Thea Hale. Thea Hale, who returned last week to NXT after months and months away. I think she instantly comes in as the favorite. I'm going to pick Thea Hale to win and ride this momentum in this new look, this new gimmick. Not really gimmick. She's still kind of the same gimmick, but new music, new look. Distancing herself from the Chase U group now that, that's been disbanded for so long. So I'm going to say Thea Hale. I think a dark horse here is Sol Ruka. I think she's the type of performer that would carry this belt well. I think we get a full-fledged Kalani Jordan heel turn at some point here. Maybe, Thea Hale wins or Sol Ruka or someone else wins and Kalani snaps and takes him out after or something. But I think that's probably the major development here. But I'll be interested to see. I'll be interested to see if Thea Hale does pull it off and win, because it doesn't feel like she gets those like work rate type of matches very often. And maybe it's just because she's been gone for so long. But I think I'm going to go Thea Hale, and I'll be interested to see what the booking looks like, giving her this type of opportunity. Next, we have got the fatal four-way match for the NXT Women's title. It is Stephanie Vaquer defending against Julia, Jordan Grace, and Jada Parker. This is a crazy one because everyone in this match could easily win. I think Stephanie Vaquer is going to retain. There's no point taking the title off of Julia if you're going to bring her back less than a month later to dethrone Stephanie Vaquer. Like, the reports were like she had visa issues, she was injured, who knows what was happening, but there were all sorts of reports about Julia and her status. When she came back last week, 2 weeks ago, it really threw things into a disarray as far as like the dirt sheets go, because it's like, well, I thought she was hurt. Well, I thought she wasn't going to be around. Like, what's happening here? So it feels like they kind of maybe just pivoted because they saw how over Stephanie Vaquer was, and they were like, you know what, let's ride that. Let's give her this top moment. So I think she retains here, and we get a bunch of little feuds and rivalries that split out of this, because honestly, these names, it's too much talent to just have this be like a one and done type of interaction. So maybe we get another Julia Stephanie Vaquer singles match. Maybe this leads to Jordan Grace climbing the ranks and taking on all of these guys in different singles matches. Jada Parker had a breakout 2024, so she could very well, continue to find herself near the top of the card. But I'm going to say Stephanie Vaquer retains. Next, we've got the NXT Tag Team titles. It is Fraxium defending against Hank and Tank. And my rule so far for NXT lately has been don't pick against Fraxium, because they just win every time. And every time I'm like, this might be the year, this might be the match, they win. They still win. They're incredible. They're having incredible matches every week. They're having the singles matches those guys are having are incredible. Like, they are in such a groove. But this Hank and Tank story about these guys finding their identities and finding their unity and coming together and putting it all together doesn't really make a lot of sense to me if they fall short. And that's been like the last month or two have been on them, like building their confidence back up and determining like who the real them are. So I can't believe I'm doing it, but I'm going to say Hank and Tank win. and become the new tag team titles, and it's presented as like a stunning upset, a shocking defeat. Maybe we get the start of the Fraxium rivalry, Nathan Frazier Axiom, one of them turns on the other, but I think we get a shocking upset with Hank and Tank as the new tag team champions. Next, we have got the NXT North American title match, which was just made this last week. It's going to be Ricky Saints defending against Ethan Page. It feels like a Ricky Saints win. This might even be like a thanks for your time in NXT. Now go enjoy the main roster match for Ethan Page, because he's been great on NXT. I don't know what else they could need him to do aside from just work with younger talent some more, but he's done an incredible job with, you think about his feud with Javon Evans. He was incredible. He did a great job of elevating him there. His feud with Trick when he first came in was great as well. And so I feel like he's done just about everything you could want him to. I think they just put the title on Ricky. So I think this is going to set up a longer Ricky reign. But I do think this might sneaky be one of the better matches on the card, because these two guys know each other extremely well. And I think that that'll play a part in the match that they have. Next, we have a 6-man tag team match with the D'Angelo family taking on Dark State. I don't know. Like, this feels like Dark State isn't going to lose this early in their run, especially when it feels like they're like primed to become the big bads of NXT. We'll get to that in a minute too. So I'm going to say Stacks turns on the D'Angelo family. There have been all these hints at dissension, and he's kind of questioning things that Tony D'Angelo's doing. So I think we get a Stacks heel turn that I thought we were going to get like last year, 2 years ago. I think we finally get that heel turn now, and I'm not necessarily he joins Dark State. I don't think that's it. I don't think he's leading Dark State either, but I think he ends up, deciding, you know what, I know what's best. I'm going to do my own thing. And I think Dark State wins this, and then we set up Tony D'Angelo and Stacks for a little rivalry, even though, honestly, Tony D'Angelo is ready to go to the main roster at any time as well. I don't know how well the Tony D'Angelo Italian Mafia Don gimmick will do on the main roster. It certainly feels a little more throwback than some of the main roster acts, but he's definitely got the talent and the experience. So I'd be interested in a main roster run for the Don. And then finally, we have our triple threat match for the NXT title. It is Obafemi defending against Trick Williams and Javon Evans. And to me, this is all about Dark State. It's all about who is it that's running Dark State. And I think at this point, it's either Trick Williams or Javon Evans. But I think with this edge that they've been giving Trick lately, this like lean into heeldom that they've been giving him, I think it has to be Trick Williams. I think he has to use Dark State to win the title back. We can get that monster heel run for Trick Williams before he gets called up to the main roster. Because I thought, honestly, he was ready for the main roster, but I've had a bunch of people that I've talked to, and it's been through comments, emails, people in my life that I've talked to that, just don't think he's ready. They don't think he's done everything. So they kind of are like, I'd love to see dominant heel just to see what it looks like before he goes to the main roster, just to get more depth to his character. And, I don't know if I just had a blind spot because I've enjoyed him so much, but I can definitely see it. So I think Trick Williams winning and being the head of Dark State makes the most sense for accomplishing both of those things. You get him a dominant run as the top big bad on NXT with this stable with him, and just kind of see what happens. I think both of these guys, I think Obafemi could be on the main roster. Honestly, he could wrestle this tomorrow morning and then challenge Randy Orton night 2 in that open challenge, and I would be just fine with that. He could just slide right into the main roster and get rolling. And then Javon Evans is going to be running NXT at some point soon. He is incredible. And he's like exactly who NXT is made for. These young guys that come in, show out, establish their name, and then just like sky's the limit. So there we go. That is every match for Stand and Deliver. Like I said, if you don't catch it first thing in the morning, because it is an early start time due to the 2-night WrestleMania, I do think this is going to be well worth going back and watching later. I know the WrestleMania that was out here in LA, Stand and Deliver was one of I went to that. I made a point to go to that with my wife. and it was incredible start to finish, every match basically. So I really can't recommend the energy of a Stand and Deliver enough. But now that we got that out of the way, and I'm trying to go a little quick, I don't want to take up everyone's time here. I know it's going to be a busy wrestling filled weekend. So we have night 1 of WrestleMania. Apparently it will be 9 hours of pre-show, of main show, and of post-show, and that'll be both days. So we got 18 hours of wrestling content just for WrestleMania in the next 2 days. That's not counting Stand and Deliver, not counting Hall of Fame or the Raw after Mania, any of that. So like I said, it's going to be a long weekend. So let's go. I don't know if this is the actual match order or not. I'm just going Wikipedia order here, but I believe it's been reported that the opening match for WrestleMania 41 Night 1 will be Gunther defending the World Heavyweight title against main event Jey Uso in a match that has just morphed so many times in this build. From the time Jey Uso won the Royal Rumble till now, it feels like the court of public opinion has changed on him 100 times. I don't know why. I don't understand. I know he's had, instances and issues with in-ring work, but it feels like he's being scrutinized a lot more closely than some other stars are. So I really don't know, because this feels like it could honestly at this point go either way. I think Gunther here winning and dominating and really laying waste to Jey Uso and killing the feel-good story is kind of not a bad idea, because it makes him the big bad of the show, makes him the big bad of Raw. And that's something Raw just has not had. That's something, honestly, neither show has had since Roman Reigns lost the title. There's been no, main heel that rules the shows. And I think something like this could be a good move towards establishing Gunther that way. I think if Gunther annihilates Jey Uso, it makes sense to bring Roman Reigns in at some point. He's going to need someone to feud with out of WrestleMania, and a Roman Reigns Gunther feud does not sound like the worst thing to me either. But all of that said, I think this is a Jey Uso win. And then I think we get to Roman Reigns and Gunther another way. I think we may even get Roman Reigns challenging Jey Uso, saying hey, I'm the man. I'm the tribal chief. I need the main title. I really don't know. I don't know what a Jey Uso world champion run looks like, but I think we're going to find out. And I have no issue with that whatsoever. I'm excited to see what he does in this moment, because not only is he coming off of the criticism on the build to this match and the botches and issues he's had with a couple moves and spots, but you've got to remember last year's WrestleMania, he had the underwhelming match with his brother Jimmy that everyone was looking forward to, and then everyone felt super let down by when it actually happened. And so I think that this is like a 2-year run to redemption here for Jey Uso, and to be in this spot. I really think, no matter how you feel about him and what the opinion you have is, I do think that this is going to be an incredible moment if he does pull it off and get the win. Next, we have the tag team title match. It is the War Raiders defending against the New Day. And this has heel New Day win and rub it in people's faces all over it. I kind of thought maybe Big E would come get involved and either swerve everyone and turn heel, or cost the New Day. But I don't want to put any of that in out there, because we just don't know Big E's status. There were all these reports that he's never going to be cleared. It's never going to happen. And I would prefer to just kind of let him keep doing his thing. And if it happens, it'll be the best surprise ever. But I don't want to be predicting it and thinking it's going to happen, getting, my hopes up, anyone else's hopes up. I think the more we let him just do his thing, the better that surprise moment might be. So taking that out of the equation, I think I'm going to go with the New Day here. Because otherwise, what was the point of this heel turn? They had nuclear heat after they turned heel, and it feels like it has gone nowhere in the last month and a half or so. And that's disappointing for sure. I really hope they can regain some of that and come out of Mania with a renewed focus, because like I thought they were going to be untouchable after that heel turn, and it just kind of hasn't happened. And that's not their fault either, because they're both. We know how incredible and entertaining the New Day are. So I don't know. I'm hoping that they get the belts and we get something new for them to do to take these heel characters, because there's a lot there that just kind of hasn't been used. Next, we have a singles match between Rey Mysterio and El Grande Americano. So far, that is still on. I have not seen anything yet. Rey Mysterio was apparently injured during a six-man tag team match tonight on SmackDown. He had to be carried to the back by medical staff and officials. So I have no idea. By the time you read this, there might be an update that he's out or can't compete. That would be a shame. I think either way, kind of felt like an El Grande Americano win, as much as I hate to say it, because I know it's been such a controversial thing since they've introduced this gimmick in. But it feels like they've gone pretty heavy into getting this character on screen and starting to try to get this character over. And Chad Gable's enough of a compelling performer and enough of a talented performer that, it could all work out in the end. I mean, not that, Chad Gable and El Grande Americano are the same person, but, I think he heavily is involved in training with him. So we'll see. I hope this match can still happen, because who knows how many more Rey Mysterio WrestleMania matches we're going to get. He's basically defied all physics and all logic for years now with this extended prime and this extended run he's been on. So I really hope that he can do this match and we can get at least another memorable Rey Mysterio performance, because, yeah, we just don't know how many more we're going to have. Next up, we have got Jade Cargill versus Naomi in the first ever women's singles match that is not for a title on WrestleMania. That is insane to think about. I think this is going to be Naomi. I think Naomi turning heel has added a lot to her character, and I think her turning heel has done more than people might have expected or thought. I think it's done better than people have thought. This feels like all of the emphasis on this being just a straight up singles match is going to be a misdirect to something happening where Naomi gets an underhanded win, either like using a chair or a weapon or something that the ref doesn't see. And then the rematch between these guys at Backlash is just like an all out, no like false count anywhere, no DQ, something crazy. I don't see how you get there to that without Naomi winning. So I think we're going to get a surprising Naomi win here. Next, we have got Jacob Fatu challenging LA Knight for the United States title. And this one, I'm thrilled to see what this crowd is going to be like for this match. Because I think LA Knight might be one of the most over people on this night one card. But he's in the ring with Jacob Fatu, and Jacob Fatu is a charisma volcano. I don't know how it's happened so fast, but he is just undeniably talented and entertaining. I think LA Knight's going to retain here though, because I think we're going to get the official Solo Sikoa screws Jacob Fatu out of winning, so we can get a Jacob Fatu Solo Sikoa feud going for a little bit, and make sure that Jacob Fatu is a full-fledged like babyface before he goes and wins the title. I would be happy to be wrong and to have Jacob Fatu win this. I am more than happy to see him carry the belt. I think he would be an awesome U.S. champion, and the array of matches he could have would be awesome. But I think it's going to be LA Knight. I think we're going to get the fact that Solo Sikoa is not on this card anywhere tells me he's going to like insert himself somewhere. And so I think it's going to be here, and I think it's going to be to like formally kick Jacob Fatu out of Bloodline 2.0 or whatever it's going to be presented as. But I think that happens here. Next, we have got maybe the most intriguing match on the entire card. It is Tiffany Stratton defending the WWE Women's title against Charlotte Flair in a match that could be anything from a 5-star classic to just a legitimate shoot fight between two people that don't like each other. I really don't know. WWE's put themselves in such a weird spot here with all of the backstage reports, all of the interviews Charlotte's been doing, all of the like blurring of the lines of what was real, what isn't. Did they like each other? Do they hate each other? all the talk now is we've moved past everything before. But like when you say that, it's kind of a I'll believe it when I see it type of thing. And it's crazy. And I say they've kind of put themselves in a weird spot here, because if Tiffany loses and Charlotte wins, the reports just are going to be like, oh, of course, she politicked her way to a win again. Tiffany defended herself and she gets punished while Charlotte Flair gets rewarded for going off script and burying talent. And if Tiffany wins, it's going to be, oh, well, there goes Charlotte. She didn't get her way, so she's going to be gone for 4 months until she can get another title opportunity and walk back in. And so I don't know. I really don't know what to expect. I want this so badly to be such a good match. I want them to have like one of the performances of the weekend. I want to hop on here Sunday night after everything is settled to record the reaction episode and be like, I can't believe we're doing this, but we have to start with Tiffany Charlotte because they tore the house down. Like that, in a perfect world, that is what would happen. I'm so intrigued by this match. I am going to say that I think Charlotte Flair wins this match. I think they continue feuding into Backlash and then maybe once more after that. I think by the end of the feud, Tiffany Stratton is champion again, but I think we should be ready for Charlotte Flair winning and then getting booed out of the building completely. And finally, night one's main event is the triple threat match between Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and Seth Rollins. CM Punk will have Paul Heyman in his corner. That is the favor, of course, the much talked about favor. And this match is crazy. There's so much talent here, but looking at it, I can only think Seth Rollins is going to win and needs to win. I think Roman Reigns and CM Punk are in a different level of untouchable compared to Seth Rollins, which is crazy to say when you think about what an MVP of the company Rollins has been for years. But it just kind of feels like, he just isn't on that level. And I think a win here really elevates him a ton. And whether the big swerve is Paul Heyman sides with Seth and costs the other guys the match, or another popular theory I've been seeing building some steam is what if Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins align with The Rock? This is based on, I guess, Seth Rollins has been wearing clothes that look a lot like some of The Rock's outfits that he's worn in the past. I think tonight on SmackDown for part of his promo, he held the mic similarly as well, I saw. And so I kind of like that. I kind of like that because I like this idea of there being another swerve on top of the Paul Heyman sides with Seth swerve, because that feels like it's really, like, at this point kind of expected. Like everyone's kind of ready for it to happen because it makes the most sense storyline wise. It's the most interesting. But I think, compounding it with both of them joining The Rock or something else shocking on top of Heyman turning would really kind of like solidify why this needed to be a main event. So there we go. Night one, I have got Jey Uso winning the World Heavyweight title, the New Day winning the tag team titles, El Grande Americano picking up the singles win, Naomi defeating Jade Cargill, LA Knight retaining over Jacob Fatu, Charlotte Flair defeating Tiffany Stratton to become the women's champion, and Seth Rollins walking out the winner of the triple threat match with Paul Heyman in his corner and joining The Rock. There we go. Some bold predictions here, but that's why we love wrestling. Is all of that makes perfect sense, hopefully, and is something you can get on board with. But that is not all. We have got 7 more matches. Night 2. Again, I don't know if this is the definitive order, but apparently the opening match will be Io Sky defending the women's world title against Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley in a triple threat match that has been such an interesting build. I've gone back and forth with loving what they've been doing, hating how slow they've been moving, and now just really wanting to see them have the match just to see what happens and how it all unfolds. I think there's a Bianca Belair heel turn in here somewhere, but I think Io Sky retains. I think Io Sky kind of needs to retain because so much of this has been about Bianca and Rhea and their problem. They've been telling that story that Io is like an afterthought, and there's so many segments that have ended with the two of them disregarding her only for her to, lay them both out to end the segment and stand tall. So it might be, a little too direct here. I might be way off saying I hope she wins and retains, and it's pointing to that. I think if she does not retain, it'll be Bianca Belair winning. But I'm going to go Io Sky retains here because I think this run for her is just getting started. And it'd be a great win for her. Similar to Seth Rollins upping his status with a win over Roman and Punk. I think Io Sky pinning either Bianca Belair or Rhea Ripley and retaining her title is a huge star-making moment for her. Next, we have got the women's tag team title match. It is going to be Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez defending against Bayley and Lyra Valkyria. And this feels like a Liv Morgan Raquel retain. Bayley turns heel and attacks Lyra and is like, I really want the women's intercontinental title. And then we kind of go from there into Backlash and moving forward. It's hard to believe Bayley has been a babyface again for over a year now already because of how long she was a heel with Damage Control and everything. So it feels weird to think she would have. It feels like she just turned face. So I'm a little hesitant to say she turns heel, but it's been over a year. So I think that's the most likely swerve, especially when you see all the stuff behind the scenes that they're doing with like her showing up to Lyra Valkyria's signing today at WWE World or the backstage segments. So I think they're laying it on thick like that for a reason. And I'm going to say the champs retain, and then we get a Bayley-Lyra rivalry that continues because they've had two incredible matches so far for the Women's Intercontinental title. So another one would be awesome, and Bayley becoming a Grand Slam champion and adding this title to her resume, kind of seems like where we're going. Next, we've got the singles match, AJ Styles versus Logan Paul. I don't know. I hope AJ Styles wins this because I don't want to he's talked about, the end of his career it being closer than you would think. So I really hope we get just a good WrestleMania match and a good win for AJ Styles here. It feels like Logan Paul has laid him out every time they've actually been in the ring together to build this match. And it also feels like Karrion Kross has done more to build this match than the two of them have. Honestly, he's been given more time to build it. So I'm going to say AJ Styles. And then we go from there. I don't know where we go from there, honestly. But I would like to see an aggressive AJ Styles making a push to be champion one more time. So I think that starts here. Next, we've got the Fatal 4-Way match for the Intercontinental title. It is Braun Breaker defending against Penta, Finn Balor, and Dominic Mysterio. And there is one way in my mind that this match can end. There is only one finish I see when I look at this match on the card here. That is Dominic Mysterio pinning Finn Balor to win the Intercontinental title and solidifying this End of Judgment Day segment once and for all. Braun Breaker ready to go after the main titles. Whoever went, like if Braun Breaker comes out and destroys Jey Uso, new world champion Jey Uso on the Raw after Mania, is anyone going to be surprised? Like, I'm ready for him to go after that title. I'm ready for him to be a main event star. He's got everything you want in a wrestler. This is a great way to get the title off of him without him losing and getting pinned. Penta, kind of same. I think, the sky's the limit for him for however they want to use him. So, to me, the only way this ends is Dominic Mysterio pins Finn Balor, which is a shame. Finn pinning Dominic would be fine too. I would not be mad at that. But I think that's the only way that this can go is Dominic wins the Intercontinental title. The heat is out of control, and we're off and running with the Finn Balor-Dominic feud, and hopefully babyface Finn. Next, we've got the Sin City Street Fight, Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest. Drew McIntyre, I think, has to win this. I would love a Drew McIntyre win here. Priest has had an incredible year, but the story that Drew has told about how his misfortune has benefited Damian Priest at every turn and being on this like weird twisted path for justice is just too good. Drew McIntyre is too good to not win this and continue a run towards whatever title he wants really this year. Like he is incredible. So I think this is going to be a Drew McIntyre win. I think this is going to be an incredible match though. I think these guys are going to go absolutely insane wherever they are in the card. A street fight with whatever weapons and things they want to use. If they get plenty of time, I think this is going to be a show-stopping match. Next, we've got Randy Orton versus To Be Determined in an open challenge singles match. Kevin Owens was originally going to be his opponent, but he had to have neck surgery, so he will be out for a very long time, unfortunately. Thankfully, we're still getting Randy on the card, but this is such a fascinating thing. I thought it might be Nick Aldis. I thought it might be Aleister Black returning, but then they did a vignette on SmackDown today that basically confirmed the SmackDown after Mania will be his debut. I think it was 425 in like the smoke effect that he kind of had used before he left the first time. So I'm kind of thinking this is going to be Rusev. And Rusev coming out on the WrestleMania tank 10 years after he first did it in San Francisco would be pretty sick. And I don't know if he would beat Randy Orton or what Rusev's character is going to look like. If he comes back as Rusev and not Miro, and we don't get God's favorite champion and the Redeemer and any of that, I'm going to be very disappointed. I think the Redeemer and God's favorite champion both could work well in WWE, even if he is Rusev and not Miro. But I really don't know. I don't know if Randy Orton loses, which is why I'm kind of hesitant to think it would be one of these signees like re-debuting. But I don't think you get the chance to re-debut someone at WrestleMania all the time. Like something like this doesn't happen every year. So you kind of have to take the moment if you can get it. And Rusev riding out on a tank to thunderous applause feels pretty good to me. And if he comes out without the tank, he's losing. I don't care. If he comes out without the tank, Randy Orton should win. I need the tank there. And finally, we have got our main event match. Cody Rhodes defending the undisputed WWE title against John Cena, looking for his record-breaking 17th world title win. This has been just such an interesting build. John Cena had the heel turn that was executed to perfection at Elimination Chamber. And then we just didn't see him until the European tour, like a month later. And then we didn't see him after that until tonight on SmackDown. Him and Cody have only kind of gotten physical a little bit twice. Both have ended with Cody Rhodes laying out John Cena to end the show and stand tall. So all signs point to John Cena winning this. We don't even know what's going to be happening with The Rock, where he is in all of this. He has legitimately not been mentioned since Elimination Chamber. Him and Travis Scott stood there in Cody's blood with John Cena, and we have got nary a mention of it. So imagine he'll be there and be a part of this. Travis Scott as well. I don't know. I don't know what this is going to look like. I think in my head what makes the most sense is John Cena wins this. He has said he's going to take the belt and leave. And I just, my hesitancy to say John Cena wins, even though it feels like such an obvious thing, my hesitancy to say it is because if they do that, then I think they're just going to run the Summer of Punk angle, basically word for word, bar for bar, where John Cena wins and leaves with the title and says, I'm out. I told you I was going to retire and take the title. See ya. The Cena tour is over. And then boom, we go and run exactly what they did. CM Punk left through the crowd after winning the title. The next night, we started a tournament to determine a new heavyweight champion. John Cena eventually won it. What happens the night John Cena wins that interim title that is now the official heavyweight title? What happens? CM Punk's music hits. He returns, and we have a champion versus champion unification feud. And we're off and running. I could see that going almost beat for beat here with John Cena taking the title, John Cena leaving and going home, WWE running an interim title tournament. Maybe Cody wins it. Maybe someone else wins it. Whoever wins it, Cena comes back and says, I thought I would like it, but I don't like seeing you fakes out here sullying the name of champion. You're making me look bad as the actual champion, so let's get to it. I think a John Cena title reign where he is wrestling not like the ghosts of his past, but like CM Punk again, Randy Orton again, Drew McIntyre, Roman Reigns, wrestling all of these figures makes a lot of sense, and it's a good way to use this last run, as well as you put in a couple up and comers with him as well. I don't know if all of it would build towards Cody being the one to officially beat him at the end of this all and retire him, but I think that makes the most sense to me is Cena winning this, taking the title, and then we run back the Punk storyline basically and just kind of adjust it as needed. But a Cody win here is not the worst thing in the world for me either. I think a Cody win where it pushes John Cena to be even more desperate and unhinged, and just sink even lower before he can fully come back and retire as a babyface, if that's even the plan. I could see that too. I'd be interested in that. If Cody Rhodes wins and Cena comes out the Raw after Mania and is like, no, this is not how it's supposed to end, Backlash, and then they do it again and he cheats to win or something, I could see that. It just doesn't feel as likely to me. I don't know. If Cody wins, I think that's probably the route they go, but I'm going to say John Cena wins and we get either he stands tall with The Rock and Travis Scott, or he wins and they all leave, and the last shot of WrestleMania is like them hopping on a private jet or a helicopter or something. Like, instead of running through the crowd like CM Punk, they just straight up leave. So I don't know. I'm going to say John Cena wins, makes history, has that huge moment. The crowd's probably going to be out of control for John Cena. That's the other thing, is the crowd is probably going to be insane. The SmackDown crowd was booing Cody Rhodes until he cut a promo and kind of flip them back on his side. But I can only imagine what it's going to look like when they're finally standing across from each other ready to wrestle. And the crowd is probably going to be going nuts for John Cena. This whole weekend, everything has looked like such a tribute to him that I can just imagine Rock versus Hulk Hogan vibes all over this, with the crowd deciding and determining, how this match is going to go from a work rate point. I'm fascinated to see how these guys are going to wrestle each other. I would love nothing more than John Cena to just one more time get in that United States Open Championship work rate bag where he's just hitting Canadian destroyers and Hurricane Ranas and stuff, and not just the 5 moves of doom. But I don't know. I really don't know what to expect other than John Cena winning. So the fun there is going to be how we get there. And that's everything. That is 2 nights of WrestleMania. That is NXT Stand and Deliver. That is one of the biggest weekends in wrestling, the biggest weekend in WWE. There we go. Thank you to everyone who watched, listened. I hope if you are watching WrestleMania this weekend, you enjoy it. Let me know your thoughts. You can always comment, email, anything like that. If there's anything you're really excited to see, or if you're seeing this or listening to this after the fact or after one of the nights, let me know what you liked. Let me know what worked for you. I will be back Sunday night to recap everything, react to it all, sift through it all. So I will look forward to talking to everyone then. Until then, everyone have a good weekend. Enjoy all of the wrestling going on. Have a happy Easter Sunday if you celebrate, and enjoy time with loved ones and friends and family. And I will talk to you Sunday night.